by media moguls with their own political agenda. And that, of course, has been dramatically exposed by the scandal which unfolded from the summer of last year. What's been exposed by the Murdoch scandal is what happens when one media mogul has such a large control over the media industry that they actually have massive power over elected governments. It subverts our very democratic system. And I think, to begin calling for this programme of radical reform for the media, to come up with a slogan which was once popular, which is one media owner, one media outlet. We should not have a situation where large moguls can amass large chunks of the media and then use that as leverage over democratically elected government. Because, of course, what Leveson's doing is showing the murky links between the political establishment and, of course, the media barons. And it's often a very ugly, unsavoury sight. But I think we need to go further than that as well in terms of looking at the roots of this scandal. And I think it needs a campaign for unionisation of all journalists. What Murdoch did by taking on and smashing the unions is make sure that journalists could not stand up to management if it meant standing up against practices which were illegal, immoral, or in a lot of cases, both. If we had a campaign to make sure all journalists were unionised, we'd be in a much better situation in getting them to stand up to management in those situations. The other thing I want to talk about is the crisis of working class representation in the media. Much of the media, especially the national media, has become a closed shop for the professional middle classes. The Sutton Trust a few years ago did a study where they looked at the top 100 journalists in this country. Over half were privately educated. Just over 1 in 10 went to a comp. Now that's to do with things like unpaid internships, which are a national scandal. If you're an aspiring working class journalist from Glasgow or Manchester, how can you hope to live in London, one of the most expensive cities on earth, for free in order for months, if not years, in order to get a foot in the door? It's to do with the growing emphasis on expensive qualifications from City University, for example. Again, completely out of the reach of, and I apologise to those from City in the room, I've just seen a few grimaces. But that, as well as the decline of local newspapers, which again gave another foot in the door for aspiring working class journalists, and it has an impact. How, if we don't have a media which is representative of society around us, can we expect the issues that actually matter to people on a daily basis to be given the platform they need? How are we going to have that accurate picture of our society? We also need to look at ethnic representation. There was a study done a few years ago which showed that 90% in 1 week of coverage of Muslims was negative. This endemic Islamophobia, not just in our society but in the media, needs to be combated by having a voice for Muslims and other groups which are often stigmatised and attacked by the mainstream press. We need to be looking at abolishing, as I say, unpaid internships, to look at scholarships, to get an actual cross-section of society. And we need to be looking at other forms of media. With the rise of social media, we can challenge this stronghold that the corporate media have and look at more democratic forms. The media doesn't have to be a mouthpiece of corporate interests or the professional, affluent middle classes of London.